the first time Jalen encountered the Zanari girl. She was sitting alone on the edge of the excavation pit, staring at the glowing fissure in her chest as though the whole galaxy had turned its back on her. She looked fragile, though he knew her species was anything but. The Zanari were famed across Orion's arm for their strength, their long lifespans, and their uncanny biological connection to living technology. But this girl, Kilira, the daughter of a clan elder, was broken in a way Jalen could not understand. Her people whispered that her soul orifice, a biological chamber sealed within her torso, had never opened. Every Zanari was born with one. When they reached maturity, the orifice bloomed like a living lock, revealing a spiraling core of biocrystal light. It connected them to the ancestral network of their kind, filling them with the memories and strength of generations. Without it, a Zanari was incomplete, and Kilira's remained shut. Beginning, the outcast. Jalen had only been on Zynar Prime for a few weeks, sent as a liaison for a trade agreement. He was just a human engineer, not an ambassador or a soldier, and certainly not anyone of importance. Most Zanari ignored him until he saw Kilira. The villagers gave her space the way one avoids a curse. Children whispered that she was hollow. Warriors avoided her gaze. Even her father, High Elder Varen, kept his distance. To them, a sealed soul orifice was not just a defect. It was a shame. That night, Jalen found her outside the settlement, by the river of phosphorescent moss. "You stare like the others," she said bitterly without turning her head. "I'm not staring," Jalen replied. "I'm trying to figure out why someone looks like they're carrying the weight of an entire planet." She laughed sharply, then pulled open the folds of her robe. There was a faint spiral pattern embedded in the center of her chest, like a carved symbol in living stone. No light shone from it, no warmth, just cold, sealed ridges. "My orifice refuses to open," she said, voice trembling between fury and despair. "The ancients are silent in me. I am nothing." Jalen, awkward as always, blurted, "Maybe it's just stuck?" Her eyes widened in shock. Then, against her will, she laughed. It was the first time anyone had spoken of it without reverence or dread. The attempt. Days later, Elder Varen announced before the clan that Kilira would undergo the final trial. If her orifice did not open during the rite of descent, they would exile her to the barren canyons. To them, better a lost daughter than a constant reminder of failure. Jalen could not believe it. Exile for something she had no control over. That night, he found her again by the river. "They'll kill you out there," he said. "Perhaps that is what I deserve." "No," Jalen said firmly. "There has to be another way." She shook her head. "The orifice cannot be forced. Our priests, our machines, even our strongest empaths have tried. It will not open. It is sealed too tightly, as though it rejects me." Something stirred in Jalen. He thought of all the broken locks and rusted machines he had coaxed back to life during his career. He had a gift, an instinct for pressure, for release, for finding the hidden catch. "What if—" "Let me try," he whispered. She froze. Then, almost desperately, she said, "You are human. You cannot understand our biology." "Maybe not," Jalen admitted. "But sometimes it takes an outsider, a different set of hands." And so, under the bioluminescent glow of the Moss River, Kilira let him place his hand over her sealed chest. At first, he felt nothing. Then, a resistance, like a lock welded shut for centuries. He closed his eyes, not thinking of biology or spirits, but of gears, hinges, and stubborn circuits. He pressed, not with brute force, but with patience, searching for the tiniest give. Suddenly, Kilira gasped. Her body shuddered. Light, a thread of it seeped between the ridges of the spiral. Jalen nearly pulled away, but she grabbed his wrist. "Don't stop." He concentrated. Sweat beaded his forehead. He imagined he was coaxing open an ancient hatch, a system that only needed the right touch. And then, the orifice bloomed. The sealed ridges unfolded like living petals, releasing a surge of golden blue light that spilled across the riverbank. Kilira cried out as her body convulsed, her eyes glowing with ancestral fire. The night air hummed as though thousands of voices whispered at once. When it was done, she collapsed against him, trembling. Her chest glowed faintly where the orifice pulsed, alive at last. "You opened it," she whispered in disbelief. "No one, no Zanari ever could." The clan's reaction. The next morning, Kilira stood before her clan. Her chest shone with the unmistakable light of the awakened. The villagers gasped. The priests muttered. Her father, Elder Varen, stared as though seeing her for the first time. "Who unlocked you?" he demanded. Kilira looked at Jalen. 100 alien eyes followed her gaze to the lone human. Hisses of disapproval rippled through the crowd. A human? Impossible. Offensive. But there was no denying the light burning in Kilira's chest. The priest protested. If a human could meddle with the sacred Orifice, then perhaps her opening was false. A trick. But when Kilira spoke, her voice carried the weight of the ancients. She recited words from the ancestral memory, things no unawakened Zanari could ever know. Silence fell. Her father lowered his head. "It is true. My daughter is complete." Then he looked at Jalen. His eyes were not grateful, but wary. "But what are you, human, that you could do what none of us could?" Jalen swallowed hard. "Just someone who doesn't give up when something's stuck." The conflict. News spread fast. Other clans demanded answers. Some saw Kilira's awakening as a miracle, others as heresy. Within days, envoys arrived. Some wanted Jalen's help to open their seal-born children. Others threatened death if he interfered again. Kilira, once shunned, now stood at the center of the storm. She and Jalen were summoned before the High Council in the capital. There, priests placed Kilira under trial once more. If the human's touch was sacred, let him open another sealed orifice. A child was brought forward, a boy of 10, his chest marked with the same closed spiral. The parents looked desperate. Jalen hesitated. What if it had only worked once? What if Kilira had been unique? But Kilira took his hand. "You can," she whispered. "I felt it, the way you touched the lock." It was not force, it was trust. Jalen knelt, placing his palm on the boy's chest. Again, he felt the resistance. Again, he searched for the give, the hidden hinge. Minutes passed. Sweat dripped. And then, the boy gasped. Light burst from his chest. The chamber opened. The council erupted. Some cheered. Others shouted blasphemy. The high priest roared. "This cannot be allowed. If humans can open what we cannot, then our entire sacred order is meaningless." But Kilira stood tall, light blazing from her chest. It was never about power or control. It was about connection. You bound yourselves in fear of failure, but the human came with patience and faith. That is why he succeeded. Ending a new bond. War nearly erupted that day between the factions. But Kilira's courage swayed many. Slowly, the idea spread that perhaps the ancients had woven humans into their destiny. Jalen, once just an outsider, became a bridge. Not a savior, not a conqueror, just someone who had touched a lock no one else dared to. When he left Zynar Prime months later, dozens of awakened children and outcasts stood on the riverbank to see him off. Kilira stood among them, chest glowing with ancestral fire. "You gave me back my life," she said softly. "But more than that, you gave me proof that no seal is eternal." Jalen smiled. "And you gave me proof that sometimes the strangest doors are worth opening." As his ship rose into the alien sky, the villagers whispered a new tale of a human who opened the sealed orifice, of the girl who was once hollow, but now burned with light, and of how compassion, not strength, unlocked what an entire species could not.